Hello and welcome to Wonder WhyZ. My name is Soham and thank you so much for joining in. In this video, we are going to talk about Boruto Manga Chapter 60. But before that, if you are new here, then please consider subscribing to our channel since I do weekly anime and manga related content along with a bunch of other stuff. With that being said, let's begin the video. Now, I gotta be honest with y'all, for me, this chapter was kinda boring. Not entirely, but still, most of it was not really exciting at the same time. However, before you go into the comments to type that, how dare I say something like this, just hold on for a second and listen. I'm not saying that this was an inherently bad chapter. Nope. Bad and boring are two separate words, two totally different words, and they have two different meanings altogether. There are 3 points from this chapter which I quite liked, but the rest of it was quite bland to be honest. It wasn't necessarily bad, but it was just like a cheap vanilla ice cream that you got instead of say something like Black Forest. If you have seen my prediction video, then you probably understand why I'm talking about this. At the same time, I have said this myself in the past that Boruto needs slow setup chapters from time to time. It simply can't be fighting to death in every single chapter. Then there would be absolutely no breathing room at all. But at the same time, this is not a slice of life series. This is not K-On! Or this is not Kobayashi Dragon Maid. This is a action shonen series, so it needs the right amount of balance between both of these characteristics as a whole. Also, while this chapter might seem like this is the perfect silence before the storm with its Naruto and Kawaki moments, but unfortunately it has not been able to deliver the tension that is actually needed in the story so far. I know that the elements established in this chapter are probably going to be very important in the future, from Kawaki to Ada and more. But still, if the very road to that big moment is not paved or cemented well enough, then it's certainly going to develop some very deep cracks that not even earth-shattering events can actually mend. Now, once again, I'm not saying that this chapter was inherently bad here, because it definitely establishes some very enticing moments which are going to be quite important in the future of the series. For me, one of those moments is indeed the Kawaki moment, especially the shinobi or I want to be the shinobi moment, because it is sort of a direct contrast to the timeskip events where we know that he eventually fails in this particular endeavor and he's not able to deliver this promise. I have a separate video coming up about this where I'm going to talk about the importance of Boruto's headband and how it all basically entices into the entire thing. But even beyond that, we have to understand here that this is a monthly manga that we are talking about. It needs to actually keep the viewers engaged. Sure, it can have all the necessary foreshadows which are needed for the future of the series, but this is not a weekly manga. People wait for this every single month. So you have to keep something to keep the viewers engaged to this. You have to give something to keep the readers engaged into this, and it's not just going to be the work of the anime. And even for the anime, I am for the most part happy with how they are dealing with the things, but yet again in the anime they are not able to build up the tension. Recently we got the Borushiki scene in the anime, and I expected the anime to establish or expand the scene a little bit more to develop the actual tension of the scene. The one major flaw of the Boruto series for me personally is the way in which they are not able to develop any sort of tension whatsoever. Like, you see all the different characters, the only person who is truly seeing things for what they are is none other than Shikamaru. He's the only person who has been from day one talking about how difficult this scenario might actually go on to develop. And especially now in the current events of the Boruto manga, like where we are currently in the village, Konoha has lost two of its most important powers. I'm not saying that Naruto and Sasuke are not going to be able to fight anymore, but two of their main powers in the form of Kurama as well as the Rinnegan are gone now, absolutely gone. But no one is essentially caring enough about that. The only person who is truly being cautious about this entire scenario is indeed Shikamaru. You take Naruto for the situation, he's just having his own fatherly moments here with Kawaki. I'm not saying that this is bad, but overall it's not able to develop the overall tension which is needed right now in the story. The same thing can be said for Hinata as well. I mean, for me, Hinata is a lost cause in the manga as well as in the anime. Her character has been totally assassinated for me. Like, you see here that Boruto is literally taking the pills, and I understand that Naruto might not have said anything to Hinata about the drugs that Boruto is taking, but even then she does know the current situation, the current predicament that her son is in. But her only role now, right now, has been delegated to just housework. I know that she's a housewife, she has semi retired into the story, but even then, she is the Byakugan princess. She is actually the heir to the Hyuga family. So she has a pretty important role so far, but that is not at all established. There should be some sort of a tension which is being played into the things, especially how Boruto's situation might impact into the future of the story. But apparently, all of those things are not at all talked about here. And similarly, on the front of the villains, I understand that they are trying to develop these villains, this part 2 version of the Kara organization with Daemon, Ada, and Code, but even then, their interaction essentially amounts to nothing in this particular chapter. I know that it is going to have bigger ramifications into the future of the series, especially how we have hints about a more different sort of a power for Ada, or maybe some sort of a weakness for the character of Daemon, which Ada is not trying to showcase right at this very moment, because she wants to first of all gain the trust of Code. I understand all of those different things, but even then, I'm just not a huge fan of the way in which it is established here in this particular chapter. Here in this video, I'm just talking about the context of Boruto manga chapter 60. I understand that these things might be a foreshadow for the future events, but considering just chapter 60, it really makes it a boring chapter overall. For me, the only good parts of it were the Shikamaru bits, some of the Kawaki bits, even that was sort of lame, but I understand why it is implied here. And lastly, the Amado stuff. Okay, that is a little bit interesting, especially because I'm someone who likes to theorize upon things. So that kind of entices me into believing that who is this secondary cyborg character which we are talking about essentially here in the story. Amado is basically developing a cyborg, a different cyborg. We really don't know who this character is, but he tells to Sumire that in order to prove his allegiance to Konoha right now, he is building a cyborg who is going to be very strong and who is going to be a very big ally for Konoha. So start your tinfoil theories, how it could be Itachi, Shishui, or Madara, or anyone for that matter. Just talk about whatever theories you want to talk about at this particular moment, because we have absolutely no idea. Sure, it might be a totally new character which we have not seen so far into the series, and it can be totally something different as well. Who knows? But this was basically what I wanted to talk about. I just did not think that this was a very exciting chapter. Sure, once again, I'm not saying that this was bad. It had its decent moments here and there with the entire interaction between Naruto and Kawaki, but it just is not enough for a monthly manga. I know people might say that I'm just hating upon this thing, but no, I'm not hating. I'm a genuine fan and I want to like the series, but especially considering this chapter, for me this was quite boring, especially the last couple of pages. It was just solely dedicated to the Uzumaki family. I understand that we need wholesome moments and whatnot, because in the future things are about to be very grim and dark, but just talking about the future is not going to be enough. Like, I understand that the future is dark and all, but what is the current thing? I am currently reading Boruto manga chapter 60. I'm not reading chapter 120 or 130 or anything like that. So these are some of my thoughts about this particular matter. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you guys think about this? And it's fine if you like this chapter, that is also fine. If you find this chapter to be interesting, that is also fine. But for me, this was sort of flying into the boring territory. And I really wish to see some more interaction between Sasuke and maybe, just maybe, the potential about how I feel like Orochimaru might get involved into the story. If you want to know about all of those things, watch my prediction video and what I talked about it there. But anyway, I'm still hoping at least that Orochimaru is somehow involved in the story, and let's see what happens in the future. So this is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining. I'll see you all in the next one, and thank you.